There we go.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our, I guess this is our first official session. The last session that we met was our orientation. And, you know, I always start, everyone knows this, I love my quotes. So John Maxwell said that leadership development is a lifetime journey and it's not a quick trip. You know, leadership is a journey, and what I have found is it's a personal one. All of our paths will look very different, and no two leaders are exactly the same. Your leadership journey begins with learning more about yourself, your values, your purpose, really self-discovery. On your path, you're going to meet strong and inspiring leaders who will serve as your role models, leaders who will serve as mentors to you, and even leaders who you may not want to be like, and they will also shape you as a leader. Strong and effective leaders look very different. Some are men, some are women, some are introverts, some are extroverts, but especially in these times of uncertainty and constant change, the world needs strong leaders who are able to be authentic, empathetic, and flexible and adaptable. And as much as leadership styles differ from leader to leader, in these times, sometimes we as leaders need to adapt between different leadership styles, right? Some days you may need to be transformational and motivational, and other days you may need to be transactional and hands-on. Today's session is about your leadership journey. Everyone is on a different path and everyone is at a different stage in their journeys. Your leadership journey will be one that is personal to you. And although today's session is called Your Leadership Journey, really all of the sessions in this year-long DLA will help you on that journey. So we are very, very blessed today to have a special speaker with us, and I will formally introduce her in just a bit. But before I do that, I actually wanted to introduce our esteemed DLA cohort, our special cohort, to our very special speaker. Benson, did you let everyone into the room? Let's see, is everyone? We have just one more person. Okay, so I haven't taken attendance yet, Vicky, so I apologize, but I'm gonna introduce them.
Okay.
So when I introduce your name, if you don't mind waving or shakaing, whatever you wanna do. And I'm very sorry if I butcher any names. So, but we'll start with Paul Alambuyao from Rotary Club of Eva Beach, Arjun Aryal from Rotary Club of Honolulu Sunset, Lorraine Davis, Rotary Club of Hilo Bay, Anka Flor from Rotary Club of Kaneohe, Mark Harbison from Rotary Club of Kihei Wailea, Beverly Hikes from Rotary Club of Hilo Bay, Margaret Kagawa, Rotary Club of West Kauai, Patty Look from Rotary Club of Waikiki, Junichi Nomaru, Rotary Club of Hilo Bay, Jan Pasqua, Rotary Club of Poipu Beach, and Alan Weiland from Rotary Club of Kihei Wailea. We also have, as you know, past District Governor Roz Cooper with us. And do we have Roy King? Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
Okay, so with that, so Vicky, here is our DLA.
So nice to meet all of you.
For
so good to see you today. Aloha.
And let me introduce, you know, she has this incredible bio, and I'm going to introduce our very special speaker, if you don't mind. Vicky.
Oh, please don't read the bio though, Wendy. Please.
Really?
I put that in chat for later. I'd rather get to know everyone.
Okay, I will put that into the chat. It's an incredible bio, and I was thinking, oh, how can I make this, you know, so that I'm not speaking for so long, but I can't cut anything out because every single thing in here is so important. So I am gonna cut it and I'll put into the chat. I do want to get to Vicky because we're so grateful and blessed to have her here with us today. So I'm just going to say that Vicky serves as a Rotary International Director for the term 2021 to 2023, and she's one of 17 directors from around the world. And we're very blessed to have her today. Thank you so much, Vicky.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Benson. It's such a pleasure to be with you. Aloha. So good to see each of you here today. And I love this topic of your leadership journey. And Wendy, I loved your opening as well. You had so many valuable tips there, things that are relevant to me, working at the board of directors, as well as anyone else, I think, that's working in leadership, you know, that's leading, especially in this wonderful volunteer organization of Rotary that we have. So I thought one of the things I would do is maybe share a little bit about my journey, just so you can see that there's nothing incredible about me. I'm a Rotary member, just like each one of you, and each one of you have a different path, but our paths can lead us where we would like to go in the organization and in the world. And so I'm just here to encourage you. And I thought I would share a little bit about my journey, as I said, and then I did, it was fun to kind of reflect on that and think, okay, so what are some insights that might be valuable to the group today? And so I made a little list of those, and I think we'll have plenty of time for questions or comments. So I'm just delighted to be with you here and to have an opportunity to meet you and hear more about your journeys as well. So as I understand, each of you has already served as a club president, and that seems to be the beginning of most of our paths as Rotary leaders, is to serve as club president. And boy, it was an amazing opportunity. As I was thinking back, we serve our members, we serve our community. We also learn a lot about ourselves in that process. And I recall, it was interesting because I recall being asked if I would serve as club president, because it wasn't really an ambition. I don't know if any of you, that was an ambition you had when you joined Rotary. It wasn't for me. And it was, I had a past club president that kept telling me that I'd be a great club president. And he told me that for years. And I never quite, it was like, I don't know why he keeps telling me this. It was such a joy to serve, though. And I hope each of you had that joyful leadership journey as you served your club. I never would have stepped forward had I not been encouraged by someone, somebody that I knew and that I trusted. And so I think that was maybe one of the lessons that we can take from reflecting on our past journeys, is what caused us to take that step, and then how might we also encourage others to take a step like that. So I know as club president, I got to know my members in a way that was totally different than how I had related to them before. And I didn't want the year to end. I learned so much about working with people and getting results, and it was so different than my business, working in a business where we have paid employees. It was so different. It was a whole different level of using influence in a positive way and creating relationships in a really positive way. And so such life lessons that translated, I have to say, they actually translated and made my business better, because I learned to work with people better and not depend upon positional power or having being the person who paid an employee. So when I completed that year, I really didn't expect to take on any further positions in Rotary. I enjoyed my club, I enjoyed my members, I was busy with work and children and life, just like each of you, right? We all have plenty of things that will take our time. And so we need to make a spot if we want to take this time to become better leaders and to serve differently. It was interesting, before I finished my term as club president, a friend of mine, and this happened to be a man I just love to work with, he said, "Hey, do you want to do RILA with me?" Okay, I have to admit, I didn't know what RILA was at that point. But I loved working with this man. He had energy and enthusiasm, and he loved to get things done. And so I said, sure. So that led to a fantastic year of redesigning and re-energizing our RILA program, which we do with 2 districts. And it was just an amazing leadership opportunity that I never would have experienced. And I'm going to go back to this. If somebody I knew and trusted him, and if he hadn't asked me, I never would have had that opportunity. I never would have taken that path. And so it just reinforced for me being open to those invitations and that encouragement that come from other people. So I never expected to serve beyond RILA. There was plenty to do with RILA. I was heavily involved in Rotary Youth Exchange as well. And my friend and I went on to create a leadership camp for 8th grade students, because our RILA camp was focused on high school juniors. I was really happy working in this youth program space. I felt like I'd found my niche. And then one day, in the middle of taking middle school students on a career exploration day, a friend of mine who was a nurse, we were at a local hospital, doing this career visit, this career exploration day. She asked me if I wanted to go to India on a national immunization day. So what did I say? Sure. Well, it turned out that my friend wound up not going on the trip, but my husband and I spent 10 days in northern India. And that was at a time where the experts said that India would be the last place in the world that would be rid of the disease. It'd be the last place that they could eradicate it because of the huge population, the poor sanitation. There's so many reasons. I tell you, it was an amazing experience of immersion into a totally different culture. We had homestays, we had door-to-door immunizations. We gave drops to children in train stations because these children were transient. They were moving every single day to have a place to sleep and food to eat. It was also an experience of being in the slums of northern India and people asking me, why did we not have polio in the United States? Why did we not have polio in America while they still had it there? And then also countless interviews with newspaper and television reporters, which is what happens in northern India when we have people from other parts of the world. We were a spectacle, and that was part of our purpose there, was to bring attention to what was happening. So it dawned on me that the purpose of my trip was not to give drops to babies. As much as I loved that, that was not my purpose in being in India. And I learned the value of being able to tell the story, to relate the experience, and to help people who are on the other side of the world who weren't really threatened by this virus called polio, to help them care about eradicating a disease. And so when I came back from India, I shared that story. I shared the experience, I shared what had been done and why it was important. And I embraced the role of connecting individuals in our organization and outside of our organization to one of our very large purposes in Rotary of eradicating a disease. And so it's interesting because then other leadership opportunities presented themselves, and you're probably in this position right now where you're starting to get other leadership opportunities are coming to light. Within 3 years, I was serving as district governor of my district, which is 5190. And then at the completion of that, I became a faculty member for Far West Pets, and then also on the governor-elect and governor nominee training teams, and a number of other things. And as I said, now I serve as a member of the Rotary International Board of Directors, which is such an honor and such a privilege. Rotary really provides incredible pathways to leadership. And there's not just one path, as Wendy was saying, there's so many, every one of us has a unique path. What Rotary does provide is opportunities to listen, to learn, to engage. We get the chance to practice leadership in a safe environment with friends and to grow personally. We also get to observe great leaders, and you have so many great leaders in District 5000. We get to watch them and learn from them and take lessons for our own benefit. Wendy, you pointed out there's maybe even some that we don't want to emulate, but we learn from each one of these people. It's really amazing. So I hope that I don't know if it's been a benefit to hear my path. It's not an extraordinary path. It's a path that's open to anyone to serve at any level of Rotary that you want to. So I did have my list, because that's what I always like to have, a little list to make sure that are there some gems? Are there some things that we can take away? Are there a few things you might take away? And so I had a number. One of them was to welcome mentors into your life. And maybe from different parts of your life. They don't all have to be in Rotary, or they could be in different parts of Rotary as well. But there are people out there who want to help you and want to share their knowledge and experience. And so I think being open to that, being open to the fact that others want to share that knowledge, and what might you take from that? I guess another one would be to be a lifelong learner and to find ways of increasing your skills and your knowledge. And it doesn't have to all be within Rotary, it can be outside as well. Believe it or not, because I do a lot of speaking now, before I was club president, I did not want to speak in public. It was very uncomfortable. I had a fear of speaking in public. I could do small committee meetings or things like that in my business, but I didn't like to stand up in front of my club. And so, I realized that that was holding me back from doing some things I really wanted to do. And so I took a Dale Carnegie course. Now that, doesn't have to be your answer, but whatever it is that's holding you back, be sure you reach out and figure out some ways to get better at those things. And you never have to be perfect, but to improve your skills so that you're willing to take on that next role. And even today, I think, I'm always looking at different webinars and different organizations and different topics, because I think that outside knowledge that we bring to help us serve in Rotary is so valuable. So be a lifelong learner. I think that's absolutely on the path to leadership. At the beginning of my story, I mentioned a couple of times how people tapped me on the shoulder or suggested and encouraged that I do something that I didn't see the skill within myself. So listen to those who see the talent and the possibilities in you that you might not have recognized before. There's so many things out there, and we can trust the people that our friends in Rotary, we can trust them. They see something in us that we can give, a gift that we can share that maybe we don't even see in ourselves. I'd say to be open to new opportunities, new experiences, even if you're not sure you're going to like it or be good at it. I say, give that answer sure when somebody asks you if you want to do something. There's always something we learn. I have a friend, George Chafee, maybe some of you know him. And he and his wife, Carol, don't have any children and don't have any grandchildren. And they were asked to be part of Rotary Youth Exchange. They were asked to be host families. And they're thinking, why would anybody ask us to do this? We have no connection with kids. We don't know anybody in the school district. We don't know anything about this. Well, they said, sure. And it became such a valuable part of their lives. And so I always think about George when somebody asks me to do something or be involved in something that I'm not sure about, like RILA. Heck, I didn't know anything about RILA. And that became one of my greatest joys, was being part of the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards program. So be open to those ideas. I'd say do your best to leave every position or every circumstance a little better than you found it. You don't have to fix everything, but leave it a little better than you found it, and be the person other people want to work with and for. Do what you say you're going to do when you say you'll do it. And remember, people before product. Our relationships are one of the most important things in life and in Rotary. So with that, I want to leave some time for questions. I want to say best wishes for your leadership journey ahead. There is such joy in being a Rotary leader at whatever level. We have the joy of purpose. We know we're making a difference through this incredible organization. We have the joy of connection, creating relationships and friendships with some of the very best people in the world. And Rotary opens the world to each of us. There's no limit to where you can go. So I'd like to end with a quote, and that is that great leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. And I think that's what we need in Rotary, and I think that's what we need in the world today. And so I want to thank you for being here today and for being a Rotary leader. And with that, Wendy and Benson, I'm happy to take questions or open it up to some conversation, depending on our time, of course.
Yes, please. And this is such an amazing opportunity for all of you. So if you want to raise your virtual hand, or if you want to just unmute and ask your question. But first of all, Vicki, thank you so much. What an amazing way for us this morning to start the morning. What an inspirational, that was amazing. Thank you so much. And Vicki has come every year to speak to our DLA cohort. So we are so grateful for you and for your support of this DLA. But anyone have a first question? Arjun, go ahead.
Thank you, Vicki, for your very inspiring conversation, talk story. And so I would like to ask you a question. Do you need to be a leader to be a great Rotarian, or is it required, or how do you separate that? Or
That is a great question, Arjun. And, you know, the fact is that I think as Rotary, I think we attract people who are leaders, and they may not recognize themselves as leaders. I recall being in a seminar in the Pacific Northwest at one point, and we were talking about how Rotary is made of leaders. And a woman in the room raised her hand and she said, well, I'm a Rotary member, but I'm not a leader. And the person who was facilitating the conversation started asking her a little bit about her Rotary experience and what she did. Well, it turned out that she had taken on their major fundraiser, done this. And it was so interesting because she didn't see herself as a leader, but her behaviors and her impact and the results she got absolutely were that of being a leader. So I think there's something about our organization. I think we appeal to leaders, and I think we create leaders, and they don't necessarily even have to recognize that that's what they are or call themselves that. I have 4 or 5 more examples of people who they're so, Wendy, you pointed out that leaders could be introverted. So a lot of times people think that if they're quiet, that they're not necessarily a leader. It's not always the case. In fact, it's often not the case. You don't have to be a very outgoing person or a very gregarious person to be a very effective leader. So I personally believe that in Rotary, we have leaders, that all of our members are leaders, and they're finding that opportunity to lead. They don't have to be the president of the club. They don't have to be a district governor. But I believe that every one of them has that heart of leadership and that heart of service. So I hope that answered your question.
Okay, I think Anka, you have a question. I see your hand up. Thanks, Arjun.
Sure.
Hello, Anka.
Hi, thanks, Vicky. And sorry, I'm in my car.
That's okay.
I'm in between meetings. Thank you so much for sharing from your heart, and also saying that you had such fear of speaking. And I have such fear of speaking, and I always overcome it. I do the meetings, I speak publicly, but I've never, ever gotten rid of public speaking. I'm going to another meeting here, and I'm nervous about this. And I just wondered, what did you do, Sophia? I know you took a course and you learned maybe to be more confident, but maybe just live with it.
So Anka, I have to say that I still get nervous, and I still have a lot of self-doubt on whether, what I'm going to say is good. I care about being of value to the people who I'm working with, who I'm talking with. And so that helps a little to stay focused on them instead and not yourself. So that helps a little bit, but I'm really sorry to tell you, it never goes away. I never have lost that fear. I've just decided that that's part of the journey, and the result is more important. And being able to connect with people and hopefully provide value is more important than my discomfort. I will tell you that at the Houston convention, I had the opportunity to interview a young woman on the stage in front of about 11,000 people, which is the largest number of people I've ever been in front of in that type of situation before. And it was really interesting because I thought I would be so nervous, but I was so intent on making sure that Nadine was comfortable. She was the young woman I was interviewing. And she said, "Oh, I'm so nervous." I said, "That's okay, because you don't have to do anything. I have to ask you the right questions. If I ask you the right questions, you've got the story to tell." And so I think the key there is the more we can focus on the other person or the other people, it helps us. But I'm sorry to tell you that I don't think your fear of public speaking goes away. You just learn to live with it a little bit. Reframe it. My husband says that it's excitement and it brings energy. So that if you can reframe that kind of that discomfort to making you, it's because you care about what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. I try to go to my place of passion, so thank you.
Yes, see, there it is. You go to your place of passion. You already have the answer.
Okay, it looks like thanks, Anka. That's a great question. So Patty's got a question from Waikiki.
Yes,
go ahead,
Patty.
Patty.
Thanks, Benson. And thank you, Vicki. So interesting. And I love how you share this information with us. Thank you so much. I was just wanting to think about mentors, and particularly because we were, I guess, assigned, or mentors were selected for us just this past couple of weeks. When you say mentors, it could be a formal situation where we might be meeting with somebody regularly, or are you also suggesting informal mentors? Yeah, so being open to anything.
Being open to both. It's such a gift that the program is already providing you with a mentor, kind of creating that relationship with someone for you in a more formal way. But there are also a lot of informal mentors. And it's interesting, Patty, people will step up in your life, and they'll step up in Rotary, and they'll be there to help you with things that you weren't even sure you needed. But they're there, they will encourage you, they'll recommend you for different things, and they'll give you insights that are so helpful to you. And so just to be open to all of those opportunities. And again, what a great job to have some of the fantastic leaders that you have in District 5000 who are already provided to you. And you'll learn something different from each one of them. And guess what? They'll also learn from you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, the hits keep coming. Thank you, Patty. Then here's Al. Al's got a question.
Hi, Al.
Hi, Vicki. Thank you so much for being with us today. And you gave the distinction of being a leader in an organization of volunteers versus being in a leader where everybody reports to you.
Yes.
and basically you pay them, and therefore they're supposed to do what you say. And the difference in leadership styles that it takes. In a previous life, I was the president of a group of 1,100 physicians. And we used to say, this is like getting eagles to fly in formation, because nobody has to do anything you say.
Right.
And so it is the power of persuasion.
Yes.
And, I think you're demonstrating a lot of that today, at least for me, by the examples that you use, creating the joy of purpose. And I just wanted to thank you for creating that distinction, because it's a very different animal and a different skill set.
Thank you. Yes, it definitely is, isn't it? That's one of the surprises maybe for our club presidents, if they've not had that joyful experience before.
It can be joyful.
Jan?
Okay. Looks like Jan's got a question. Go ahead, Jan.
Thank you. Hi, thank you for being here.
Hi,
I'm
Jan.
so excited to get this opportunity. So someone asked about, if you're a member, can you also be a leader? And I really like your answer, because when I was president, we were short of board of directors members, and especially president-elect for next year. Had to pick him before pets. So I know this happens in a lot of clubs, but is there some kind of a suggestion or protocol for how long someone should be a member before they're into those kind of leadership roles, or how do you prepare them for that?
So there isn't any specific requirement. And what we're finding, in fact, I'd like to turn this around and have you all be thinking about, how do we fix the challenge that we are having in a lot of our clubs, where we don't have that next president who's ready to step into the role. And how do we get out of this thing where it's like, oh, we have to get a president? And this is such an incredible opportunity. You would think that we would have a line of people who wanted to get into that role and be ready to serve. And so I think there's probably some things that you all could think about, because of your recent experience in that role, of how can we help with that. It's a problem not just in maybe your club, it's a problem that we're hearing about, especially across North America. It's been really challenging. And a lot of club presidents are serving more than one time, which there's nothing wrong with that. And specifically, if your club wants to have a longer period of time, that's something that's within your purview. One of the things I love about Rotary is that the great ideas, the best ideas, come from our members and come from our clubs. And what happens is that your district, and I'm part of what you would call the zone, which is a group of 30 districts, and Rotary International are here to support the clubs in achieving what they want to achieve. And so rather than there being some prescription about how you qualify as a club president, we trust the club to determine the best person for that job and the qualifications of that job. Now, I believe in your district, there's some work being done on board development, which I think is really exciting, because what that's doing is preparing other people to be more knowledgeable about the leadership of the club and how they might then fit into the role of club president. And it also is expanding that role of club president from being expand might not be the right word there. What I'd like to say is that it's not a single person job. And it's not all about that person specifically. It's about serving the club and serving the members. So one of the initiatives we're really working on at Rotary, from the Rotary International point of view and from the zone point of view for districts, is to be thinking on a multi-year basis. We have such an incredible system of annual changeover of leadership, which gives us freshness of ideas and opportunities for more people to serve as leaders than in a case where you might have somebody who serves as a district governor or a Rotary International director or a club president for 4, 5, 6 years. All of our terms are 1 year, with the exception, I have a 2-year term as a director. Our trustees have a 4-year term, but there's a constant turnover, which is very intentional, to create that opportunity for new ideas and to give space for new leaders. So I think this idea of board development is a really good idea, because the plans that are made at your club level should serve your club and your club members and your community over a multiple year period of time. It's not, what was it called, 117 years of 1-year plans. Specifically at the club and the district, we need to be looking, and at Rotary International, looking at our planning, our goals, and our achievements over a multiple year period of time. It often takes more than 1 year to accomplish a big goal. And therefore, you need leaders who are collaborative and cooperative and are serving their members and their clubs. So I think all of this, that was a really long answer. I'm sorry. You brought up a point that's a real challenge right now, and that's how to have more people who are willing and able and excellent at taking that important role of being our club presidents. So that's the challenge. If you all would take that on as a cohort and come up with some solutions for that, I think that would be something that the entire Rotary world would be grateful for, if you had some ideas on that. And I think you're the right people to come up with those ideas. So I appreciate that. How's that for a non-answer?
That's great. I have a question before you go. So one of the things, and I wanted to address that point that you just made, is that what we saw over the past couple of years, and the people on the screen have seen it, is that we came up with this thought that about increasing our Rotary IQ, which is basically just increasing our knowledge of just Rotary in general. And
Yes.
Because what we found is that the more a person knew about Rotary, the more they tended to be involved. And
Right.
so one of the things we're trying to do in our district is, and as you know, we have a pretty robust training program, about 80 different sessions over the year, just in trying to encourage everybody to attend even just one, anything, just so that they can get in the flow of training, which is a great thing. Then they become knowledgeable, then they tend to get involved more. But what I wanted to ask you, and it's something that we're going to discuss later on, because I've got the session after you, is to talk about, as leaders, and Rotary is super exciting to be a leader, and we don't, just to have that opportunity to lead at the club level and district level, a lot of different levels. But one of the things that I think everybody on this screen has encountered at one time or another, like 90% of it is super great, but 10% of it maybe isn't so great. And so later today, we're going to talk about really just managing our own disappointment, because sometimes, you work really hard and things don't turn out. And so we find people, if they don't have a way to manage that disappointment, they're like, well, screw it, I don't want to be a part of this, and then they leave. Or it does the reverse, where you know what, I'm not going to give up. Like for me, I was raised to like never give up, to like, hey, this is a great opportunity to learn, and just kind of move on. But that's something we all kind of face, from time to time. Like I said, we put a lot of effort and energy into stuff, and it may not turn out. So I know that over your career in Rotary, you've had a few of those, but been able to work your way out of it, find the silver lining, and continue to go forward and continue to kind of go up the ladder. So I just wanted to have you kind of address that in your own thoughts.
That's what an interesting question, Benson. So it's speaking to the personal resilience, for one thing, isn't it, that you pointed out. And I guess it's also pointing to the fact that, there's a couple things I would say. One of them is that we're all equal in Rotary, and nobody is in charge of all the best ideas. And so I think one of the keys is collaboration and getting as many people involved in a discussion to bring the best points of view together. I have a friend who says that all of us are smarter than any one of us. And I think that's really true. Now, how do you take that to a disappointment if something doesn't come out the way you want? I guess part of it, on a personal point of view, I always feel like there's a lesson to be learned. And you mentioned this even in how you set up the question. What are we learning from this? And what's the longer term view that maybe I don't have at this moment in time? And just being open to that. It's not easy. As leaders, we want to have success, right? And we're working towards whatever that goal is, and we have intention and we want to get results. So I guess people before product is one of the things I would say, is making sure that those relationships stay whole, and that the end result is probably not worth sacrificing a relationship. In almost all cases, there may be an exception there, but in almost all cases, I think that's the truth. And then just taking a long-term view of it and saying, okay, what do we learn from this? Because maybe we got on a better path because of that failure, but we can't see it yet. So just having that faith that it's all going to work out, especially as we all work together. And that's, I'm going to go back to Arjun's first question, and it's, one of the little things that Rotary, what we talk about in Rotary, is it says bringing leaders together. We join leaders to exchange ideas and then to take action. And I think that's our direction there. So thank you. That was a tough question, Benson. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't, trying to throw you a tough question, but I know that's something.
It is hard sometimes. Yeah.
That we want to discuss because we learned through the pandemic that it really is about resiliency. I mean, part of what we have to kind of address is just getting together and working with each other collaboratively, and just say, okay, man, good, lesson learned, let's move forward. So I see my friend Junichi has got a question. So Junichi, why don't you go ahead?
And yes. I just, one more thing I would say, Benson, before is just the fact that, that's the thing we talk about at Rotary, that it takes a long time to change things. And that's where I get frustrated. And again, I try to take that longer view that we can't change things just like this. Sometimes there's a good reason for that. And so just to kind of have that little bit of patience, that I don't have much patience. So that's my biggest challenge. Yes.
That's okay.
Junichi,
go ahead.
Yes. Thank you very much, Vicky, for a great and inspiring talk. So my question is that about a little bit personal, but about leadership. So leadership one of the important aspects of the leadership is to effectively communicate with cohort. So the question is, have you ever had experience that you don't want to even see people or talk to people, or losing or experience to lose a motivation or self-motivation? And if the answer is yes, how did you overcome that kind of situation by yourself?
Okay, that's a very good question. And yes, yes, I have had that situation. I think what you're talking about is getting discouraged or unmotivated. And so I think it's a challenge for every one of us. I think as human beings, that's really normal. And so for me, a few things that help for me, one of them is as a support system. In my case, it's my family, my husband and my children. And so having a support system, they don't have to be relatives, but I think that's really important for every one of us, that we have a support system of people that we can go and share what's bothering us, and they'll listen and give advice if needed, but maybe just listen would be part of that. So having a support system, and then maybe giving ourselves a little bit of grace and giving ourselves a little bit of space to be able to rejuvenate. Again, for me, that would be to be in nature. And certainly I would expect that with you being in Hawaii, that's part of how you rejuvenate and what's of value for you as well. So I like to get outside, get in the mountains, get some fresh air, give myself that little bit of space. So I also try meditation, and I'm not too good at meditation. It takes more patience than I have, but I'm practicing. I keep practicing. So that is one of those personal skills, that we need to be able to nurture ourselves and give ourselves that support. So your support system and your mechanisms that you have to support yourself and keep yourself strong and take care of yourselves. One of the things I talk to governors, because I work with the 30 governors of our 2 zones, is to make sure they're taking care of themselves, because they can't serve others if they are depleted. And so some basic things about eating well, exercising, getting enough sleep, just taking care of yourselves, making sure you're nurturing your personal relationships so that you're whole and can give to others. You can't give more than you have. And so that just being sure you take care of yourself. Thank you for that question. That was a very important question.
All right. Thanks, Junichi. So I see one more Hilo person over here. Man, we got that string of Hilo, doing it today. So Beverly Ikes is on with her next question. Go ahead, Bev.
Thank you so much. And very thank you to you, Vicki. I totally enjoyed your talk, your sharing of your Rotary story and your leadership story. I didn't have any questions. It was all self-explanatory and great, but you did bring up something that was a concern of mine, is the board leadership development. I have served on 4 other nonprofit boards, and there's protocol and there's so many things you have to follow. And when I came to Rotary in their leadership as president, I noticed that those things are not always followed, and it was okay. And I struggled with that because I'm a protocol person. If you have bylaws, then that's what help you govern. You should know that, you should follow that. So I found myself being somewhat of an outlier, in a way, because I want to continue with structure and protocol and all of that. And then I found myself cringing at certain things that's said in meetings that I felt like, oh, that's not proper, or, that may be making somebody else uncomfortable who had a different story. And we should be sensitive to those kind of things. So anyway, that Vincent said that we are now going to be working toward board development. That got my attention, because I think that is so important, that we need to know when we're before people or we're before situations or groups of people, to be sensitive to what others may be going through. that something that you may be celebrating, maybe something that someone else is cringing about. And I think we should be sensitive to that. And so I think protocol is so important, and developing our board where we follow these certain things will help our organization work better, and it'll help people to stay. I think people leave because they're uncomfortable with something at meetings, you know, because that's how we get together. So that was what came out when you said that about board development.
Interesting.
Yes,
Interesting.
I'm seeing that. We
So,
need to,
you know, Beverly, it's a balance, isn't it?
yeah,
In
yes,
Rotary, we have so many different kinds of clubs, and we want to give that flexibility to each club to be what it wants to be within the framework of Rotary. So at the board level, we're talking a lot right now about regionalization. And where that's coming to, Rotary has bylaws and constitutions and code of policies and manual of procedure. We have a lot of the structure. And our question is how to make sure that we keep what is most important, what is vital about the structure, and what is Rotary, our values, our mission. What are the things that we must keep sacred? And what are the things that can be flexible, that might be done differently, for instance, in India than they are in North America? What are some things that can be flexible and be handled differently in Korea than they are in Africa? And so that's one of the big challenges that we're taking on right now, is helping to define what are those things. And I think you have the same question in your district about different kinds of clubs who have different purposes, but what are those things that are the framework that we all fit within, so we make sure we are Rotary? And what are those things that we can be flexible on? Now, if your club has bylaws, you need to follow those bylaws. But that doesn't mean that the club bylaws from one club have to be exactly the same as another club. There is a Rotary Club constitution that every Rotary Club accepts. The bylaws, we have recommended bylaws, and they can be adjusted to meet the needs of different clubs. And so we're really in a position right now of learning that there are needs out there. There are people who would love to be part of Rotary, but some of the structure of traditional clubs doesn't work for them. And so we've been really exploring cause-based clubs and different kinds of satellite clubs and different kinds of methods of meeting. And also we've really been open. We have a lot of flexibility in Rotary. We just don't want to lose that heart, that core, that framework that really does make us Rotary and unites us across the world, all 1.4 million of us, which include Rotaractors. Rotary members are Rotaractors and Rotarians brought together. So those are great questions. It sounds like you've got exciting discussions ahead as you get into that. So thank you.
thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Bev. So Jan's got another question. Go ahead.
Okay, Jan.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to piggyback on what Beverly was asking, because I've seen that I've been in 3 clubs now, and that seems to happen often. And a lot of it, I think, is like you kind of mentioned, is personality and what their styles are. And I'm a conformist. I'm a nerd. Whenever I join a club, I read all their bylaws, all this stuff. So I like to follow that. It makes me feel good. And I found another gal in our club who's a former administrator. Yeah, we took it on. We went through the bylaws together, and they were old. Some of them needed updating. Sometimes, I don't know if you get the notice from RI that you have to put certain things in it too. And so we got it updated and got the vote from all the members. And in the process, then all the members learned what the bylaws were. So that was really helpful. But yeah, it's hard for me to stay flexible with other ideas, especially younger people, the younger generation. When they come in, they have less structure, but again, I watch it and it works. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we got to figure out how to accommodate that, don't we? Without losing And the structure is good. The structure isn't bad. We just have to make sure it's the structure that works for us, right? And thank you for going through the bylaws and updating them and sharing them with your club. That's hugely valuable.
I have to say that's what I did with our club too. So I did update them and we got into it and made changes and all of that. But still, I'm like, it's something that I think is really important for an organization to be able to run smoothly if they have that in place.
Right. So you're also bringing up conflict resolution, which is a huge skill for leaders, isn't it? So Wendy and Benson, is conflict resolution one of the topics you talk about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
It seems to be, it's on the radar a lot these days. And I know we're talking about it a lot at the governor level as well. So good. Good.
So in our sessions, I want to just kind of get into this board training subject some more, because on the call we've got Lorraine here. Lorraine's looking at me like, don't call me out on this. But Lorraine is a really experienced board person. And when she was club president, I asked her, hey, we want to try to do a program in the district for board development. And she stepped up and helped us put that together. And part of that was conflict resolution. So and then we've actually had last year we had professional mediators come on and talk about how they mediate things. So you know, our board training, a lot of our program is because Lorraine, who's in our cohort today, stepped up and helped us to design that. So Lorraine, I see you're unmuted, which means you're ready to talk. So I'm gonna let you chat a little bit about that or ask Vicki a question.
No questions, because everybody's actually kind of been putting what's been running through my head has been actually asked. And I do like the idea of conflict resolution, because the 10% that I didn't enjoy in my Rotary year was about conflict. And I can relate to what Bev said, because when I'd say, well, what's our policy here? Because that's what I do at work. You know, if there's a conflict at work, is, well, where's our policy? And you can go back and see it in black and white. And they go, well, we don't have any policies. You have to go to RI for it. And it was like, well, holy cow, I got bad actors on this situation and there's no policy for it. So this is pretty valuable. Thank you.
You know what? And we do have to be able to call out the bad actors, Lorraine. We like to think there's none in Rotary, but at every level, we've got to be able to call the people out so that they do not ruin our brand, our name, our clubs, our organization. So we do have to be aware of that. I'm sorry to say that, but there's not many, but we do have to be able to handle it.
No, there's not, you know, it's not. And it, you know, for me, it was just one or two people, but it was my experience was, it was a nonstop one or two same people. And it was, nothing was going to go right in Rotary for them. And I actually almost got to the point where I was sitting there and ready to ask them, why are you in Rotary if you dislike it so much? You know, but I didn't quite have the backbone to do that.
Well, and unfortunately, they create a toxic environment where the good people will leave, because who wants to be around that?
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? I mean, we're having...
Benson, I always take more time than you allocate for me, but this is such a great opportunity to hear from these incredible leaders. So thank you so much for
spending so much time with us, Vicki. We know we have taken so much more of your time. We're so grateful. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
You guys can all unmute and show your appreciation and clap for Vicki. Thank you so much. Such a great way for us to start our DLA. So thank you. But before you leave, can I take a group shot of us? Okay, everybody look at your camera. Okay. Smile, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you again, Vicki. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful day. It's such an honor to be with you this morning. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. Appreciate it. Okay, gang. So for the rest of the session today, we got about 30 minutes. We actually thought that particular segment was going to take about 30 minutes. It took an hour, which is okay. It's really good. So we want to kind of continue that flow. So what I'm going to do for the remaining time, And then if we have more time after I'm done, we're going to kind of get together and do our groups. But I put together a presentation. Actually, I gave it to the Hilo Club yesterday. Bev kind of sat through this, but it was the non-PowerPoint version of it that can go a lot quicker. So today I'm going to do the PowerPoint version of it, and it's really about this, right? So last year, you guys remember when Sandy Matsui was our district governor, her theme was to serve with aloha, right? So we kind of understood that as a group, like, okay, we're going to be, kind, compassionate, understanding, all those things that kind of go along with aloha, right? So over the course of the ensuing months, Naomi and I talked a little bit about it, and so I developed this basically a program called Aloha-based leadership. And so I put it together in a program. I'm going to kind of run you through it. It's a slide deck. And basically what it does, it takes Rotary strategic priorities, those 4 that we've been talking about for years, reach, impact, engagement, adaption, and it meshes them with our local cultural values that most of us have been raised with. Now, I take the native Hawaiian line in this, because I was raised by mostly by my grandma and my mom, who were both native Hawaiians. But it doesn't matter, like if you were raised, Japanese, Chinese, Filipino, Bradbury's from Boston, where the family lived across from me. We all got raised with similar type of values that are embedded in the culture in which we live in today. So I believe personally that creates kind of a unique situation for us Rotary wise, because we have Rotary's values and then we have our own cultural values that when we combine those together, it makes a really unique situation for us in Hawaii. So I'm going to start flowing through this as a slide deck. Now, I know we've been on it for an hour, so if you need to get another cup of coffee, use the bathroom, whatever, you can just get up and go ahead. I won't be offended if you kill your camera and disappear for a second. But I do want to kind of get through this, and then we'll talk about it on the other end of this. Okay, everybody see that? Just give me the kind of thumbs up. Let me see from the beginning. Okay, so like I said, when we got into this whole theme last year of serve with aloha, that whole aloha thing, of course, it resonated with me because I was raised with that. So I really believe that we have a unique situation here in Hawaii, and that we can use those traits in which we were raised with to overlay into what Rotary is doing and to make us more effective in Rotary. All right, so as you guys know, about 10 years ago, Rotary saw, especially in North America, and Vicki mentioned this, right, where our membership was starting to go down. It was increasing in other parts of the world, but in North America, it was starting to go down. So what they thought is we have to establish a new vision. So their new vision was, together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe in our communities and in ourselves. Now, think about that for a second. So they want us to do a few things, right? They want us to unite. They want us to take action. They want us to create lasting change, right? Not just around the world, but in our communities that we serve, and mostly in ourselves, right? Because when change happens at any level, it always starts with us individually. So this is a really great new vision. Now, of course, visions are super great, but if we don't have a way or strategic priorities to try to achieve that vision, not going to happen, right? So they came up with this, right? They came up with these 4 strategic priorities: increase impact, expand reach, enhance participant engagement, and then increase ability to adapt. Now, where did these come from? They didn't just pull them out of a hat, right? So when we talk about, start with expand our reach. That came from membership. That came from a need to expand outside Rotary to increase our membership, because as you know, you can't increase membership inside Rotary. You have to do outreach. So when I was at the Hilo Club yesterday delivering this talk, they inducted 3 new members, right? And those 3 new members came because these guys were willing to expand their reach. So reach comes from membership, all right? Increase impact. So in 1983, as you guys know, Rotary took on polio as their sort of worldwide mission. They were going to eradicate polio, and they almost had it licked. They had just a few cases that were in the Middle East, but now it's kind of popping up in the US again. But that was super impactful. So thousands of Rotarians went overseas. You know, they did vaccinations, inoculations to all of these kids all over the world, and they took polio down from hundreds of thousands of cases to like 4 or 5 cases. That's impact. That's where they can go out and do something collectively as a group that can have impact on a society, on a group, on the world, right? Impact. All right, enhanced participant engagement. Where that came from, it came from all the dead wood that's sitting in our clubs. Now, if your club is like my club, we have a really active core group of people, but we have a group of them that, you know, they pay their dues every year, but we don't see them, okay? And so those people, what enhanced participant engagement means, it's like we got to get into our clubs, we got to engage these people, and we got to start getting them active, because that's the whole reason you join Rotary, right? Is to engage, is to participate, is to help your community, right? So that's where enhanced participant engagement came from. Increased ability to adapt. So Rotary understood that if they're just going to be a dinosaur and they're not going to change and they're not going to adapt, they're going to go by the wayside. Now, I was fortunate in my club to have 3 members in our club that were Rotarians for over 50 years. You know, one of them, Harold Ohata, who's still active member, had 50 years, 50 years of perfect attendance. Now, when I asked each of these guys, Jimmy Souza, who was one of our charter members, our club chartered in 1956, okay, Val Cook and Harold Ohata, I asked them individually, what's the greatest thing that's happened in Rotary since you've been a Rotarian for the last 50 years? And every one of them said individually to me, when we brought women to Rotary. When we brought women to Rotary, because Rotary saw that they were all men, right? That if they didn't adapt, that they were going to be the dinosaur. They were going to be the blockbuster video of nonprofits. And so increased ability to adapt. Now, luckily for us, we got a pandemic in 2020, which forced all of us to adapt. I mean, who knew Zoom meetings could be effective, right? And so one of the greatest things that I saw in ability to adapt was Junichi, who's on the screen today. So while we were still trying to figure out, oh my God, how are we going to do this? Junichi immediately put his club on Zoom, immediately, like in March of 2020. Like our club didn't go to Zoom till like June of 2020 because we still couldn't figure out what to do. And so Rotary Club of Hilo Bay, they never missed a beat. We just kept on going. So that was great. All right, so those 4 things. This is the strategic plan. Now I want to take that, all right, and sort of overlay on these are the values that our 4-way tests dictates for us, right? It's truth, it's fairness, it's goodwill, it's better friendships, it's doing things that are beneficial to everybody. Now, when Paul Harris developed this in 1905, it wasn't just about these values. What he was putting out there was that he wanted guidelines for what we're going to believe, because what we believe dictates how we behave. So that's why anywhere you go, you're going to find Rotarians pretty similar, pretty like-minded across the globe. So values dictate our behavior. All right, so let's take that Rotary piece and put it aside. And now we're going to go to serving with aloha, right? It's connecting our culture with Rotary. And so I'm going to share, there's 4 values in there. And this is just stuff that I picked up as I reflect back on my childhood. But in my neighborhood, all right, so we're the Medinas, right? So my dad is Filipino from the Philippines, my mom pure Hawaiian from East Molokai. But next to us, right, were the Nakamotos. Next to them were the Santos, Portuguese. Next to them were the Filipis, Filipino. Next to them were the Leons, Chinese. And straight across the street were the Bradburys, who was a Howley family from Boston. The father was in the Coast Guard. All right. So we were always at everybody's house, right? And what we saw collectively is that everybody ran their household with similar types of values, right? And I'm going to talk about those. And then you think about your childhood now and start thinking, did I get any of that? All right. So basically, like I said, I learned lessons from a lot from my grandmother, and they were basically servant leadership type of lessons, right? And so you guys know the difference between servant leadership and basically traditional leadership. Traditional leadership is there's a person at the top and everybody follows that person, right? Servant leadership is that you actually serve from the bottom and you lift the whole group up. It's more consensus type leadership style, right? So we've had over the last few years, people come and talk to us. Kent Keith, who was the developer, wrote a book on servant leadership, came and talked to us about it. So within Rotary, you see servant leadership everywhere. Okay, so servant leadership is like Aloha in that it's focused on the mutual benefit of everybody, right? And the way we do Rotary for the most part in Hawaii is that it's really about mutual benefit for everybody. So Aloha-based leadership is basically looking at the people we lead as our family. Now, I'm in a family-based business, so I will tell you that the best thing about working with my family or working in a family-based business is I get to work with my family. But I will tell you the worst thing about working in a family-based business is I get to work with my family. All right, so there's pros and cons to both of it, right? So let's kind of explore this a little bit and see what that looks like, right? All right, so if you look at people, the people that you're leading, whether it's your company, whether it's Rotary, whether it's the Boy Scouts, it's the soccer club, whatever. If you're in a family, think about your own family now. Here's the family priorities, right? First and foremost, safety, right? I just spent a week, babysitting my grandkids in Seattle, right? A 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, they're fabulous kids. Why am I there? Why is Grandpa there? To make sure these kids are safe. That's my main priority, right? Is to make sure they don't set the house on fire or they don't, eat the dog food. That's my job. All right, safety. So as a leader, your first priority is the safety of the people that you lead. And that's why, Rotary's come out with, diversity, equity, inclusion, right? Keep people emotionally safe, physically safe, obviously. It's all about safety. All right, second thing is values, right? Is that we have to create, Rotary already has values set for us, but in our family, we set values. Like, if you go to church, right? Church sets values for you, and then you raise your family by those values. All right, so values dictate beliefs that dictate behavior. And so that's why if you don't have values, it's kind of like, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything, right? Everybody's heard that. All right, and the third thing is that, and Vicky mentioned this today, our job as leaders, or in my family, my job as the head of our family is to create opportunities for people in our family. Okay, so as club president, my job is to create opportunities, opportunity to serve, opportunity to participate, opportunity to lead, opportunity to serve a wider community, to donate money to Rotary. Okay, safety, values, opportunity. All right, so here are 4 values that actually happened in not just in my family, but what I saw around our neighborhood, right? And the first and foremost was respect, right? Respect. And everybody, no matter what racial background they came from, they had a version of that, right? So when I went over to the Nakamoto's house next to us, we took off our slippers before we went in the house. That's respect. That's not a Native Hawaiian thing. That's a Japanese thing, right? So respect means that we give value to things. And in our culture in Hawaii, if you're a Native Hawaiian like me, that means that if you're respectful, you give value to things, that you value the order of things, you value the protocol of things, like Bev and Jan were talking about the bylaws, right? That you have respect for that. You have respect for the organization. Now, in our local culture, when we talk about love and respect is the same thing. And I was giving people at the meeting yesterday this example. So after one of our meetings, one of the guys who's the past president, Hilo Club, Steve Handy, you know, afterwards, I think he was just so grateful that our presentation went really well and the event was really good. He comes up to me and he goes, "I love you, man." Right? And so what he meant, and when we say that to people that we're not related to, what that means is that, you know what, I respect you and I'm grateful. And so I've lived all over the US and I never heard people use "I love you" to other people like they do it over here. And it means that they're respectful and they're grateful for whatever you've done for them or with them. Okay, this word that's on the slide, pilina. Pilina is the Hawaiians' belief that everything and everyone is connected, right? So me, I have respect for that. So that makes me look at all the people that are on the screen today and know that I have a connection to them, and I like that. Okay, so the second thing is kuleana. Like you guys have heard that, right? Kuleana means responsibility. When I was a kid, my dad would give us all of these chores and he would say, "It's your kuleana to clean the yard, your kuleana to take out the dog, your kuleana." So I thought kuleana meant chores, but it really meant responsibility, right? But my grandma took it a step further and said, no, ko'u kuleana, ko'u means mine, my responsibility. And so her belief is that you can't impact anything unless you take personal responsibility for it. So everybody that's on the screen that agreed at one point to be club president, you took it on personally. You said, you know what, I'm going to step up, I'm going to be club president. I'm going to step up, I'm going to be board chair. I'm going to step up, I'm going to be, you know, district, you know, DLA dean like Wendy, right? You decide you're going to take it on personally, personal responsibility. It's the step beyond just, you know, it's our responsibility. No, it's my responsibility. So like our culture, Native Hawaiian culture, it's not going to go forward. We can't preserve, protect it, or perpetuate it unless each of us takes personal responsibility for that, right? Keep our traditions and rituals going. That's why Rotary has survived, you know, over 100 years, because people have taken personal responsibility to continue Rotary. That's it. All right, so the next one is kupu mau. So kupu, when you put the seed in the ground, that little thing that comes up out of the ground, that's the kupu, right? So that's the new members of our clubs. So to make sure that they grow, all right, we have to nurture that. We have to feed that. We've got to fertilize. We've got to make sure that it's in the right environment. So what kupu mau means forever. So if somebody says, you know, eolo mau, like life forever, mau means forever. Always growing. This is what Vicky talked about. Always growing, always learning. Every leader is a lifetime learner, right? This is super important for the Native Hawaiians. They have a term called maka'ala. Now, maka'ala literally means big eye, but the Hawaiians use it to be alert, to be observant, right? And so this bird that's on the picture, that's the kolea. And so before they got here to Hawaii, when they were out there in Polynesia, they saw these birds flying out there, and they would go out there at 6 months at a time. And so the Polynesians out there were going like, where are these guys going, right? And so they can't be flying out there for 6 months. So some brave souls, and a lot of them probably just perished on an ocean, got in the canoes and they started following these birds. And the first group that was successful, they followed them to what we know today as Hawaii. And unless the Polynesians were observant and creative like that, we would have never been here. You wouldn't be sitting where we are today. All right, lifetime learning, it's the key to our ability to adapt. Okay, and the last one, as you know, is laulima. And laulima means that we have to work together, and the Hawaiians really perfected this by their whole ahupua'a. So how the ahupua'a works, it's a pie-shaped piece of land. It goes from the top summit of the mountain, because we're a mountain range, right, all the way to and including into the ocean. And what the Hawaiians saw is that there were different ecostrata, right? That the stuff that you could do by the ocean was different than what you could do in the uplands. So the guys that worked at the ocean, They harvested the fish, did the fishing, and shared it with the guys who worked on the plains, who did all of the planting and farming, who shared their stuff with the guys who were in the uplands, who cultivated all the big, huge koa logs that supplied the guys that were down by the ocean their canoes, right? So what they found is that they collectively could work together for the benefit of everybody. Now, on the Big Island, and probably other more rural areas, where we see Laulima really working is in the plantation mentality, right? So think about this. You've got these immigrants coming from all over the world, and they can't even speak the same language. And that's where Pidgin English, by the way, got its origin, is in the plantation, you know, trying to figure out a language that they could all speak, right? And so once they all got there, they knew that our job was to try to figure out a way we could work together for the benefit that everybody is there, right? So Laulima is really about working together to create opportunities for other people. Okay, so let's tie these two things together, right? So let's go back to increasing our reach, or expanding our reach, right? My feeling is that if we want to increase membership in our club, if we want to increase reach out there, is that we have to be respectful and interested in people, right? Because, you know, you see these clubs that are just like inducting new members crazy, like Hilo. Our club has inducted a few too. It's because we've decided that if we're respectful and interested in people outside of Rotary, that's the way to get them in there. That's just my theory on it, my feeling on it. So see how the two things that reach and respect really kind of go together, right? The next two that go together is impact and responsibility, right? So if we want to increase our impact in Rotary, it's the people that take personal responsibility for stuff are the people that are increasing impact. So like my friend, Gary Picaro, Punahou graduate, by the way, Wendy. All right, so his son, when he graduated from college, decided he was going to just take a 1-year trip around the world surfing, right? So lucky for him that he had the chance to do that. But when he came back, one of the things that he saw out there was so much garbage in the ocean. So Kahi Picaro got together and with a group of people, and he created Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii, right? To basically clean up the coastlines around our state. All right. He took that on personally, and that's why he was able to make that kind of impact. And so for us as leaders in Rotary, if we want to make an impact, that's the way that we do it. We got to take it on personally, right? So when you're taking a look at your club, like, okay, who's the next PE? All right, so who's the next person that wants to have a positive impact? Because if you're that person, you got to take it on personally, right? With the support, with the help of everybody else. You're never by yourself, right? Okay, so if we want to adapt, you know, we want to increase our ability to adapt, is that we have to be lifetime learners. And that's why it's really cool, like like a guy like Junichi. Like Junichi's like a nerd times 5 million, okay, because he knows everything about everything, right? So if I have a question about basically, hey, so Junichi, why did, you know, whatever, Junichi knows the answer because Junichi's committed to lifetime learning. So if we want to be a group that adapts, we have to constantly be learning as we're going along out there. And the last thing is, if we want to engage people in our clubs or outside our clubs, is we do it by letting them know, hey, if you help us, we can do it. So I don't know if your club is like mine, but if I say, all right, I need a volunteer to be a greeter next Tuesday. Any volunteers? Nobody, right? But if I say, Al, will you be a volunteer next Tuesday? Al will go, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So, I mean, so what I'm saying is that if we have the ability to like Vicky was saying, right? Somebody told her, you know, you'd be a good club president. And now she's a Rotary director, right? If we give people opportunities to engage with us as a group, that's the way that we engage people. So Aloha-based leadership, like people say, oh, I'm not a native white. No, this is not a race-based thing, right? So when we do the four-way test, we don't say, okay, if you're a white person from the mainland, you can say the four-way test, but the rest of you can't. It's not a race-based thing. All right, think about, and it doesn't matter if you were raised in Kalihi or Kahala or Honoka'a or Kansas, right? These values that I talked about today, they were embedded somewhere in your life. Okay, it's a reflection. Aloha-based leadership is a reflection of what we believe and what we value. All right, so the last thing, my grandmother used this word ho'omau a lot, and ho'omau means basically to kind of go forward, right? To go forward, to protect, preserve, persevere, keep going. All right, so when I went to college, let me take that back. So when I was a kid, I was kind of a rascal kid. So when my grandmother talked to me, every word started with mai, and mai in Hawaiian means don't, right? So mai ho'opa, don't touch, right? Mai molawa, don't be lazy. Mai hupo, don't be stupid. Mai po'ina, don't forget, right? All right, so just before I went to college, I told my grandma, I'm going to college now. And I know she was shocked by that. But this was the last time I saw her because she passed away while I was at college. And the last thing that she said to me was my maka'u, which means don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, okay? So we need courage to go on because it takes a lot, right? It takes courage. And if you have courage, then you'll have energy, right? Because I'm sure that a lot of you guys got up this morning. It's like, really, do I have to go on to this class? I mean, hour and a half on a Saturday, it's nice. Lorraine is sitting there, she's going, this is my Saturday market time and I'm blowing it because I'm going to listen to Benson. All right, it takes energy, right? So there's courage and there's energy. And then that last word, holomua. Holomua is what I was referring to. I was talking to Vicky about, which means to go forward no matter what. And honestly, for me, I mean, I've had some great experiences in Rotary, but I've also had some devastating things that were super disappointing, where I'm sitting there going, I'm looking at my wife like we work, weeks on this thing and there's just me and her there, right? And so I'm saying, really? And she's like, hey, we got to hold more. Remember, your grandma said, we don't give up, we keep going. And and that's the thing that makes us stronger as we continue to keep going. So anyway, hey, that's it. And we have like a whole 4 minutes for questions, but I'm glad to answer any questions that you have. And if you want that slide deck, I can send it to you, or better yet, if you want, I'll come and talk to your club about that. Okay, wow, that's a lot. I actually did that in only 20 minutes yesterday. Yeah, go ahead.
Any questions for Benson?
Any questions, thoughts, comments?
But Benson, if you could send it to the whole cohort, if you could email it.
I can.
Great.
Very easily.
Yes, that would be a great resource for all of them to have.
Okay, so look, I know we did an awful lot today in 90 minutes and it flew by because we're having fun. We were going to actually give you some time today to work in your groups, but
But I think it was more valuable to hear. I mean, we're going to take Vicky's time as much as time as she is willing to give to us. So I think that was amazing. She typically doesn't stay that long in our group. So it was wonderful. I hope you thought so too, that we got to spend so much time with her and so many of you got to ask questions. But I do just have a few announcements, Benson, to close us out. Okay. So just to remind, these are all just reminders. If you haven't yet, I think most of you have reached out and scheduled your mentorships or your mentor sessions. Please do so. If you're having any trouble reaching your mentor, please let me know. Thank you. I don't know if Roz is still here, but I didn't introduce Roy King. Hi, Roy. Thank you for being a mentor as well. Did your mentee reach out to you? Or you may not have one. Okay, great, awesome. And let's see, you will receive your next assignment a couple of weeks before your next session. The next session is on membership. It'll be an exciting session again, and that'll be on October 15th. And then just a reminder that the group collaborative project will be in November. The presentation will be in November, so November 19th. So you still have some time. And we have 2 more minutes. So I wanted to just leave it, if anyone had like a question about either the mentorships or the collaborative project, you can ask it now. Any questions? Arjun.
Thank you, Benson. I, of course, at the work at the university, we use a system called Laulima. I didn't really know the meaning. I'm so glad to know. And we also have something called Laulima. I mean, when you have collaborate with more and more people, there can be problem of lokahi, right? So how to deal with that? The other the agreement can be more bigger and bigger problem. The more you collaborate, the more. How do you I don't know, optimize is the word or something like that, balancer?
Yeah, well, it's a difficult thing because the more people you have, you're right, the more diverse opinions, thoughts, feelings that you have. And I think outside of the group sort of buying into this, all right, this is the direction that we're heading. I think the main thing for us as leaders, if people say like, okay, well, no, I don't agree with that, or I don't want to do it that way. It's about creating opportunity, right? So if somebody doesn't want to do it your way, that's fine. Well, here's an opportunity to do it this way, or you could look into it this way, or why don't we form a separate committee to do something like that? Because now I always see one of my main roles is to create opportunity for people, and especially people who don't want to do it my way. I'm like, great, that's terrific. Here's an opportunity for you to do it. Let's do a subcommittee. Let's review the bylaws, right? And I know that when Jan and Bev were talking about the bylaws, I know that one of the first things they did is like, okay, gang, here's an opportunity for us to review it, to go over it, to see what we can do to integrate it. And that's the challenge really of being in a volunteer organization, is it's way more difficult to do it in a volunteer organization because you don't have that, what Vicky was talking about, you don't have that positional power, and if they don't like it, they can say, well, screw you, I can do it a different way. So you have to have a lot more skill, a lot more finesse to do it. And what I've seen, it's a lot about just creating opportunity for people. So I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but
that's a great answer.
Yeah,
it's an awesome answer. We are at time, so I'm going to let all of you go, but I'm sure Benson will be happy to stay around for a couple of minutes if you have any other questions. But I want to let all of you go, and I want to thank all of you for, as Benson said, spending an hour and a half of your time on a Saturday morning. I'm sure you guys all woke up super excited because DLA was today and you got to hear from Benson. But again, thank you for joining us, and I'll be in touch soon. So thank you, everyone. All done.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You can stop the recording, Benson.